burst your bubble, but I'm not going to court.
Wes, do we have the right, do we have the ability to waive that waiver? To waive the, if it's not in the district, we do not have the right to waive that requirement.
I'd have to go back and look at the code down. I'm not certain off the top of my head. If it's a parking requirement, yeah, you have the ability to waive the requirement in the code, as I recall, for the requirement that says the parking must be in front of the building or in the rear of the building. So you have the ability to waive that requirement. If it's a use issue, no, you don't have.
We don't have the ability, we don't have the authority to give use variance.
That's correct. But if you say, we're gonna waive the requirement for putting the parking in the obvious area to put the parking, given the unique, landscape issues associated with this property, and the open field is a logical place, it's fairly flat to put the parking, that is the logical place to put the parking. If you agree with that, and since that is unique to this property, it is worthy of a waiver, and grant a waiver from the requirement that says the parking must be behind the buildings.
That is a great argument, but we do not have the power at the planning board to waive that.
Who does?
That is a zoning board issue. We cannot waive
No,
use
that's not,
variance.
no, that's defined in your code, that parking shall be to the side or behind
You're in a
buildings. That's
different,
code
you're in a
requirement.
different zoning district.
We cannot
That's your
approve
problem.
it because it's a different zoning.
You're in a zoning district that doesn't allow
Sorry.
it, that's your
That's
problem.
right.
It didn't allow camping either in that zoning district, but that didn't matter at Hector's for the last 4 years.
They get tickets.
Oh, well then why don't we get tickets?
The building there, and that's satisfied.
Instead of injunctions.
And
My
if you
God.
read the definition of the code, then it's what's considered fine.
Excuse me?
If you read your code and you follow definitions like a judge would, that's what you would find.
I read the code and that's my opinion of the code. But maybe the board has a different
Did you
opinion.
read the definition of a professional building in your code?
I absolutely do.
Okay, all right.
And I think that once your business is done in the ticket booth, I don't think you can justify that the parking attendants and everybody else should be considered accessory to the ticket booth. And that 500 cars entering the site, parking cars and having attendants should be specifically linked to the ticket booth and not to the camping. It's accessory to the camping.
If this is a parking
You don't know
area,
If you did not have the camping, I don't believe you would have a ticket booth with 500 parking spaces.
but there's nothing to stop us from setting up, if you wanted, you could set up a separate business entity just for the parking, and this becomes a separate business where they collect parking fees when the people come in, and they can also collect as a service to the campground, any camping fees associated with the stay. So that service can stand alone if it wanted to. If she chose to set the business up that way, she could set it up that way, and then that becomes an absolutely legal application of the code.
We don't have that application in front of us.
Pardon?
We don't have an application for a separate business. That's a
It doesn't have to
that's
be
a building
defined.
department issue.
Dan, it doesn't have to be defined as a separate business in your code. What gets approved by this board is the use and various applications. It's not how a business is set up. That's not part of your review.
I'm sorry, I thought you just said it was a separate business.
I'm saying that within her business, she could set that up as a separate business. She so chooses. The use is still the same, but she could set it up with, because you argued earlier that oh, you can't do that. You can't have a building like that, a business that supports this camera. I'm saying, no, you could set this up so that was the business supporting all this, taking care of all this parking area. And when you do that, then it satisfies all the legal requirements of your code.
So the business that you're gonna put there is a parking lot.
And a ticket office to administrate the parking issues.
Where are the cars supposed to park?
Okay, hold on a second.
No, I'm curious, where are the cars supposed to park if we don't park them there?
Gerald, we cannot consider parking in the R17B
Okay, well,
district
so
because the use is not permitted. It's not up to us to come up with a
I
solution.
thought I was in an ag district.
It's an R17 district along the front based on the site plan submitted.
How far back does the front go?
550 feet from the right of way now.
Yeah,
550 feet.
the 17B district is for the application of the town of the planning board. There's this property line back here for this parcel right here. Hold on a second. This line right here, that's about where the R17B district line goes, right across here. That's about where the R17B line is And what you're saying is that you just want to eliminate all the available parking for this application by imposing on it. And that's why I propose the structured office, the administrative office, up here in front of all the parking to satisfy the code.
We are not saying that we want you to eliminate all that parking. What we're saying is that we cannot consider it if we feel it's accessory to the camping. And if camping is not permitted, then the accessory uses associated with camping should also not be considered, in my opinion.
Okay, and what I'm saying is that this is if that ticket booth is the primary business purpose of that ticket booth is the administration of that parking area, then it satisfies the code.
No, then you're making a public parking lot, and parking lots are not permitted.
If people.
You're making a parking lot. People are gonna come in, they're gonna
You're right.
put,
You're absolutely right.
Putting a parking
It's a
lot.
bad, you know, no, wait, it's a bad idea. You're right. This is not a good idea for the town. I apologize, really. I don't know what else to do. I've tried. I really have. I don't know what else to do.
Cheryl,
What?
the section of the code, we are a regulatory board.
You're a bunch of assholes.
Wes, we are a regulatory board, and our job is to regulate zoning. We're not making it up. This zoning has been in effect for
Oh,
years.
you make it up whenever you want to,
And
and
you
you
are-
waive it
you are
whenever
aware
you
of the
want
city
to.
code. So,
And
if that weren't the case, then you wouldn't be requesting so many waivers of the requirements of that section, which existed when this plan was developed.
most of those waivers, Dan, were all about your vegetative measures. I'll bet 90% of those waivers were all about the extensive repetition you have and contradiction you have from your vegetative requirements code. And so most of those waivers required were all about your vegetative requirements, because I was trying to dot all our i's and cross all our t's and address every single thing in your code that we could possibly address to make sure that we have all the waivers that are required. But most of those waivers are because of the vegetative requirements, not for, there's not a lot of, if you got rid of all the vegetative crap, there's not many waivers we're asking for at all.
Where are we
Comments from the
supposed to
board?
park?
Are there any comments from the board?
Where are the cars, give me an
It is
alternative.
it's not our place to design your project for you. This is not a shot out of the blue. This was discussed at the meeting last month. So it's not like this is a huge surprise, like nobody's
What?
aware of it.
What
It's
do we
not for
have
us,
to
it's,
do to park the car? I'm working with you now, Dan. What do we have to do? What's the next step to get the cars parked?
they cannot be R-17
Where can
zoning
they be?
district.
Where's the goods, where's the
Outside the bounds of the R-17B district, in the,
Where do we
where,
move the cars? 500 feet
it's not
down.
our decision to tell you where to move the car.
I'm asking Wes, where do they want them?
If this line,
Wes, you're not gonna be on the record, and we're not gonna take public comment right now.
if this line approximately represents the 17B corridor so we could, we'll put these, we can put them up here, for example.
Okay, fine.
And
My
They-
God. Push it back. And what exactly is the R-17 zone? What is that, commercial? What is it? Is it ag? Is it commercial? What is it?
The rural gateway district.
Oh, I see. So the rural gateway district does not allow for businesses and parking?
Does not allow for camping.
Mark, did you know that? Where are you? Did you know you can't have parking in front of your business? Oh, but wait a minute. There is a big sign several times a year that says camping right behind the business. And they have parking right, am I wrong, Mark? Do they have camping behind your store and you have parking in front of your store?
I have parking in front of my store.
And doesn't Kevin have a sign that says
I'm
camping?
not getting involved
Well,
with what Kevin
whatever.
does.
All right, hold on, let me just, there's a couple of scenarios we can go through with this, Dan. I'm not clear in your code. When this first came up, you said we couldn't have parking in the 17B because there was no use associated with that. It said that basically, here we have our campground, all of our primary use, which is for this campground, is not in 17B. then we had this parking area that spilled over into the 17B district. And so when you read the bulk zoning tables, you can see in the bulk zoning tables that parking is a permitted accessory use in both this district and the 17B district. So, so it is a permitted use in both districts. The parking as an accessory use to a primary use. So I didn't know, I didn't have a little clarity on how to interpret that in the code in terms of, well, if it's, if it is, if the parking is the accessory use, is permitted in both districts, but the park is really for the primary use in this, for the campground, which is permitted as a special use permit in this other district, is this spillover parking allowed? And I'm not certain, and maybe that's an interpretation that we need from the board in terms of, well, if part of your parking area spills over to the 17B district, it's still an accessory use to the campground, which is permitted in this other district. And I didn't know how to, that's why I put this little building down there, because I thought that would just eliminate the whole thing if it was going to become an issue.
If we were talking about an accessory use that had nothing to do with parking, let's say, are you saying that any accessory use permitted in that district can be, well, any accessory use considered for the camping section should be permitted in the adjoining lot?
No, it's what it says in your bulk zoning tables is the parking is a permitted accessory use to the primary use. So when we look at the primary use.
Hang on one second, you're thinking of it.
So, okay, in the code, in the bulk zoning tables, it says that parking is a permitted accessory use in both the 17B district and this other district. What's the name of the other district? The
AG, Ag.
Thank you, the AG district, thank you.
But what's that accessory use, has to be accessory to a permitted use in that specific district.
Well, that's
So-
what I wasn't clear on,
so
because that's
the
not
parking-
stated in the
The
code.
parking is accessory to the camping use when it's in the ag district, that's very clear. If you can't, as you're saying, overlap into another zone.
Well, that was my
and still
concern.
call it accessory.
It wasn't defined, that weirdness wasn't defined in the code. You know, are you allowed to overlap? And that wasn't specified anywhere in the code, so I didn't know how to interpret that. And to eliminate the whole issue, I said, well, screw it, let's just put a ticket booth down here, and it eliminates it. Because now, all this parking is for a permitted use in the, as long as it's that building serves an administrative function in accordance with the definitions of your code, then the parking becomes an accessory use to that administrative building.
I agree with Dan, the accessory use to the ticket booth, if you call it a professional office, should be based on number of spaces based upon the size of that building, which is generally one space for 300 square feet or 400 square feet. And you're saying there's no limit on the parking, so therefore putting 300 spaces, well, I don't
It's
think
not a problem.
that would apply.
I don't think that's a realistic assumption.
Anybody would do that.